Good morning. Thanks for joining us. Today is January 5th, 2023. Happy New Year. We will be discussing San Mateo County today, home to some big companies like Facebook, Meta, YouTube, Visa, Oracle, Genentech, and Gilead, just to name a few. Most commonly nicknamed as the Peninsula. So let's first look at the map. So north part of is comprised of Daly City, South San Francisco, going south down to Menlo Park here. Right, so this whole section here is San Mateo County, right? And then here in the mountains as well, so Half Moon Bay, right? 280, 101. So now let's jump into the stats. We're going to talk about actives, number for sale, pending, number that have sold, days on market, and of course, median prices. So let's jump into the stats. Okay. There we go. All right, so you can see the cyclical nature here. So interesting thing of 2022 compared to 2021 is the inventory definitely creeped up, right? So we can see here in the chart, but still below what it was in 2020, 2019, and 2018, right? And now at the end of the year, inventory was still a little bit higher than last year, but lower than the previous 2 years. Let's look at December here, right? So these were 346 single family homes available for sale in San Mateo County versus 223 in 2021 and 480 in 2020. A key number to look at is the number pending, which are the number that will eventually sell, right? And we can see that there was less at the end of last year than the year before, right? So we can see pendings definitely dropped, right? And you can see that on a cyclical nature, it does drop as well every year. But we had less transaction volume at the end of last year compared to the year before, right? So we can look at the trend here of June to December, that 527, 495, and for 2022 is only 348, 312, right? And so the very end, it's really slowed down the transaction volume, right? So number of homes that we're selling. So we can see that the time it's taking to sell has increased, right? So looking at the chart, it's gone up a bit. And you skipping COVID, looking at these years over here, then we can see that it is now back up at the end of the year to what it was in 2020 and 2019. But the crazy market of 2020 to 2021, we can see it just stayed very low the whole time. So we're into 18 days for November, 14 days for October, and 26 days for December, which we're looking back before, it's kind of normal during the holiday season. Okay. And now let's see this reflecting in the sales prices. So we've definitely seen a decline towards the second half of last year, right? From the rise up during COVID. And we can see the cyclical nature. It drops a little bit and goes up a little bit and up. But we had a little bit larger decline throughout the end of last year. So we peaked at 2.25 in April, and it's gone down. The median sales price is now down to 1.545 for the whole county and 1.395 here for 2018. So it's definitely increased, but it has cooled down, right, quite a bit. So that was the whole county. So now let's look at specific city. So the house behind me was a client's house in South San Francisco. So let's dive deep into specific city, South San Francisco here. Okay, so let's look at the numbers for sale. You can see the same type of cyclical chart that we saw for the whole county, right? And very little inventory at the end of the year. So only 9 homes for sale in December, which is more than last year, but less than the previous years, right? And that's pretty consistent on the number of actives throughout the summer. And now the key thing we should look at is the pendings, right? So we can see that we're less, the numbers are less, right? So the number for sale is similar, but the number that sold are less than 2021. So we can see here only 10 sold in December of 2022, whereas we had 16, 18, and 17. So a little bit more sold than previous years. So now let's look at how long it's taking to sell. We stayed pretty consistent here, right? So I would say that South San Francisco is still moving quite fast. So median time to sell is 2 weeks to sell here. Okay, and that's definitely more than it was before, but things sped up since the peak of August of 3 weeks to sell. Now it's taken 2 weeks to sell. And let's see how that reflects in the median sales prices. Let's look at the chart first. So slow rise, then a definite decrease from the peak. So the peak we had for South San Francisco was 1.54, and now the median sales price is 1.128, right? Which is down from last year, but kind of flat to 2018. And I would say take this with factor that only 10 homes sold in December, so that we don't have too much data for the median sales prices. Right, so looking at the numbers with over 20, it gives them better reflection, because it's hard to judge the whole median based on the few number of sales only. So let's jump back now and just look at the whole county with condos and townhouses. See how those compare to single family homes. Yeah, so we can see a big decrease in number for sale with a peak of condos in the middle of COVID, right? So the peak was 405 in 2020, and now we're down to only 141 for sale at the end of last year, which is on par with what we saw in the previous 5 years. See here, slower, right? Significantly less number of sales than last year, right? So number of sold has decreased, right? Looking at the trends. So the peak for last year was 178 in March. We're down to only 60 that sold. See this in the chart here. Right, so definitely decrease in number of sales. So looking at days on market, they have definitely climbed. So we have a just general trend of taking longer to sell for condos and townhouses in the whole county. And so you can see this is definitely higher than the previous 5 years here. And keep that in mind. If you have a condo and townhouse to sell in San Mateo County, it might take a little bit longer to sell. And you can see that reflected. The price is still soft, right? So we can see that the peak was $1,085,000 and we're down to 813. Looking back, it's a little bit down from 2018, right, for the condos and townhouses for San Mateo County. Okay, so comments I would note is that the amount of inventory we have for sale is a little bit higher than of 2022, is a little bit higher than we had in 2021. And it's definitely apparent that the number of transactions has decreased. So things have slowed down on the number of sales. And I think that with the right mindset and strategy, it's definitely still a seller's market, as there's still not that much inventory. We haven't had a gigantic increase in inventory. And then for the buyers, I think that provides a opportunity if you are in the market ready to buy right now. Things to keep in mind is that interest rates have gone down a little bit, but they're still definitely higher than before. But one thing for certain is there's less competition out there for buyers. And in the past week, I've had one property that had 8 offers and sold in 4 days, and another property that's been taking a little bit longer to sell. So there's definitely a bigger variance in how long it's taking to sell properties, but there's still definitely properties that are going above asking and definitely properties that are going below asking. So the market is definitely different now and has cooled since the beginning of 2022. All right, so I'll see everyone next week. We'll go over another county and city. Thanks for joining me and have an awesome rest of your week.